Mellon Foundation has this long, impressive history, the most important foundation in the U.S. dealing with the humanities. And under Elizabeth Alexander, they've really shifted their focus, still on the humanities, but also really trying to adjust issues of social justice. When I was named president of Rutgers, Elizabeth, with whom I'm an old dear friend, reached out to me and said, we have been thinking about moving some of our attention to the public education space, and Rutgers has been part of our thinking about this. I want to invite you, she said, to think about ways in which Mellon's mission, humanities, the social justice component, can align with something you might want to do at Rutgers.
There are many people I'm sure I know that he was talking to about this idea, but I'm going to take credit for this one part of it because it was really so important to me. I said, what would be cool is if there was an institute that would pull scholars together from across all of the campuses at Rutgers. There has to be a way to somehow get everyone in dialogue and collaboration with each other across the different campuses. If we had an institute that just was structured that way from the get-go, that would be so exciting.
This is what this institute can help us do. By bridging things that are happening at Camden and Newark and New Brunswick and bridging them together and organizing them through these themes of critical inquiry from a humanistic perspective into issues of global racial justice. If you bring coherence to that, you're doing something really interesting, one. Two, really important.
My first thought, once I was director and it was the idea, and it was words on a page, I said, I want a group of intellectuals and scholars around the table with me in thinking about this, and I want them to represent the different campuses, and I also want a kind of disciplinary range for the very simple reason that you cannot think about the problem of race without utilizing a number of scholarly methodologies. It's impossible. Humanities provides a certain kind of value, raises a certain set of questions, but you need multiple approaches. That process ended up in my leadership team. Their perspectives from the different campuses, they brought not only interdisciplinary breadth and depth, but they live in Rutgers in different ways. And when we are all sitting around a table, all of those perspectives about Rutgers and what Rutgers is and can be and who Rutgers communities are, we're all sitting at that table.
I was attracted to it because think about Rutgers like as a human body, right? And we've got all these different organs, right? These vitally important organs that do really important work across our three campuses, but we have no circulatory system. So we have all of these sort of great little siloed departments and researchers who are doing amazing work, but they don't have the chance to communicate it to other parts of the university. And that matters because if you can find people who sort of are working on issues that are similar to your own, right, you can, it just sort of amplifies the work if you're able to connect with them. So I think of the Institute as a way to connect people and connect ideas.
I was immediately drawn in. If we were going to tackle the issues of social racial justice, of thinking about, and I use the word thinking intentionally because it's the Institute for the Study of Global Racial Justice, to take the time, to have the resources to allow faculty, to allow postdoctoral fellows the opportunity to meditate on some of the most important issues that are facing not simply Americans, but citizens across the globe, that we had a real opportunity to intervene in ways that are new and impactful.
I was really surprised and inspired and curious about a university-wide initiative that didn't just study race, but studied global race, particularly because of my own routes and my own research in terms of intersections between racialized communities around the world, but also particularly here in New Jersey. And when Michelle Stevens and I had our first conversations, the kinds of improvisational riffing we had about the humanities and race and the role of art and scholarship in society, they were the kinds of conversations that I had been hungry for my whole career as an academic.
When I think about my relationship to content and to social activism, I've often felt that there was not an outlet for that. There is some distinction, there's some divide between scholarly work and creative work. But when the opportunity of the Institute, of working with the Institute came along, I realized that I had a chance to bring everyone into a community where those distinctions would not hold. The Institute provided a mechanism, provided an area where people could leave behind the presumptions and the assumptions about what it is that we all do separately and the way that we think about one another, and just bring a creative interest, just bring our curiosity, just bring our fascinations to the table and to a conversation. And that interaction I see as a microcosm of what needs to happen in our country, in our nation, and certainly across the world.
Throughout the time I've been at Rutgers, I have not only noticed but experienced directly the sheer variety of intellectual work that doesn't get named as such, but that gets carried out pretty much every day by students. It tends to be during those years of undergrad education that students are not just earning a credential, they're trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do in the world. And they are trying to figure out what their values are. They're trying to figure out who matters, what matters. What cause am I willing to sacrifice or devote my life to? The racial justice lens really condenses a lot of inequities that students are trying to think critically about. And I've seen a lot of it happen in the classroom. Much of that ferment gets planted during their years as undergraduates here, right? And so a big part of the work of the Institute will be to think of ways of linking up to that other population and generating a dialogue that allows students to see a future beyond the present that they're in.
In the work that I do, in particular, working in the pre-modern period, I think there is a wonderful opportunity in the classroom to teach students how to think critically, not only about the past, which we are learning through the texts that we're reading, but to learn how to think about their present by looking at the ways in which race has been constructed and deployed in the past. I was invited to a meeting and Michelle was extremely excited about the work that we were doing, and she saw the value in supporting and in looking at the mission and the subjects that the Institute is dedicated to from a longer historical perspective, thinking about genealogies of race and racialization. And so to me, it was very interesting that she was so excited to engage with scholars like us who work on the Middle Ages and the early modern period and saw the value of our work for the Institute. That was very exciting to me and made me, I didn't know too much about the Institute, but it made me realize how seriously the Institute takes scholarship on the one hand, and on the other hand, the impact that scholarship will have in the community at large.
There has been so much of an effort to push issues of racial conflict out as if it's not appropriate for polite society, right? When actually engaging and dealing with those issues directly in a way that is relationally complex, but is respectful and kind of tries to move the conversation forward, I actually think is the energy that we need in order to move things forward.
A lot of this is social justice scholarship. And so we are going to a place that has been historically disregarded in the academy and centering it. That act is tremendously important. And it's hard, but we have to do it.
Hold on, hold on.